Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another vid. So, the background music that you're listening to is the classical Street Fighter 2 or the revamped theme of Ryu's stage music. And those of you who may not know, I am a big vid and a faithful Street Fighter fan. I've been a fan for over 30 years. The reason why I'm playing is another reason why I'm playing his music in the background is because the 30th anniversary game was released today on the console, PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and so forth. So definitely picked up my copy today. Yeah, I mean, all I can say is that having 30 years of the Street Fighters all in one game with 12 games on one disc. So it's very amazing though, man. I get to have all the games into one, and you know, it's kind of the irony about that is that I actually have all the Street Fighter games separately. I have it on, I have the Alpha series on the Sega Saturn. I have Alpha 3 on Sega Dreamcast. I have Ultra Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4, and the original Street Fighter 4 on PS3. And I have the Street Fighter Alpha Anthology on PS2. So, and of course, I had the old Street Fighter 2 game that was released on the NES back in 1991. And I bought the upgrades as well, the Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and then on the Sega Genesis, I have the old Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition. So, well, not too much of a difference from on Turbo. Well, it is slightly different. I mean, the Turbo was a little bit more powerful on the Super NES. At one point, I did have a Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the Panasonic 3DO, but actually, I gave that system up away a long time ago. I sold it, so along with the game. But I made up for it buying the Street Fighter collection that's on Sega Saturn, and that collection included Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Super Street Fighter 2 and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and Street Fighter Alpha 2 Gold, which you want to call the Turbo version of Street Fighter Alpha 2, which actually is one of my favorite games from the Alpha series is Alpha 2. I know a lot of people talk about Alpha 3, but to me Alpha 2 seemed to be more it was more enjoyable for me because it was so crisp, it was so clean, it was powerful, it was fast. I mean, the controls was just so streamlined for a 2D fighting fan like myself. But anyways, I know I wasted about almost 3 minutes talking about Street Fighter and its legacy, Street Fighter 2. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you don't have a copy of Street Fighter, the 30th anniversary collection, I should also say that the original Street Fighter game that was released on the arcade but never ported to any console is also part of that collection as well. That came out in 1987. I just said that. Anyways, yeah, I just wanted to add into there. And there's only 4 games that's available for the online version, which is Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Street Fighter Alpha 3, Street Fighter 3 the new generation. I think it is Street Fighter 3 the new generation? No, I'm sorry. Let me take that back. It's Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and then you have Street Fighter 3, the new generation, the fight of the century, and then you have Street Fighter Alpha 3. So unfortunately, those are the only 4 online playable games for the collection. I wish they could have included Alpha 2. God damn it, Capcom. But hey, man, a lot of people are excited. There's people doing live streaming for the game. So yeah, but I forgot to, anyways, those who did pre-order it before the launch date, you did get a digital copy of Ultra Street Fighter 4, so hey, congratulations to you. But anyways, I wasted 4 minutes talking about Street Fighter. Let me just talk about the meat of this video here. The meat of this video is pretty much Gennady Golovkin is backed into a corner here, alright? And the reason why I'm saying this is because not only that he's got the IBF breathing down his neck about the Deverchenko situation, rightfully so, because that title he hasn't defended that IBF title for mandatory for the last 2 years. He's already gotten 2 exemptions, so that situation I can understand why the IBF is pushing him to fight Deverchenko, otherwise he's going to be stripped, which more likely that could be the case. But the only update about that is that Tom Loeffler and his team did meet with the IBF, so we don't know what resolution they've came up with. But we should hear something either tomorrow or by the end of the week, or maybe by next week or so. But this little bit of a bombshell has came into the fray now, and this story came out yesterday. Mauricio Suleiman, the president of the World Boxing Council, which is the WBC, has spoke, and he suggested that Gennady Golovkin does accept Canelo Alvarez's terms, which he initially agreed to. And the reason why there's a bit of a controversy beyond these terms is because Gennady Golovkin is now trying to press for a higher split, a 50-50 split, given the fact that Canelo had failed the drug test and he's taking a huge risk by fighting him in the fall, which I can understand. But from a financial perspective, he doesn't have much room to stand on because of the fact Canelo is the A side. He is the biggest financier. His team is behind the fight. They're the ones who pull the strings here. And the fact they initially agreed to it, you can't just back out of it. I'm just looking at it from another perspective. But as I initially stated, and I'm always going to state to my initial point on this, is that Gennady Golovkin should just back away from the Canelo Alvarez situation and just move on from his career. But the thing is that if he does do that, Mauricio Suleiman is pretty much just warning him: if you back away from the Canelo Alvarez negotiation, if you decide to move out of that deal, then what's going to happen is that we're going to order you to fight your WBC mandatory, which is Jamal Charlo. And that right there has caused a bit of a frenzy with the online boxing community. One aspect, they're saying that the WBC is pretty much is in bed with Canelo Alvarez, which they've always been for many years, which I can understand. But the other argument is that people are saying that Jamal Charlo does not deserve a shot at the title as a mandatory. Oh man, the irony behind that. Look, for one instance, I understand that, okay, he moved up to 160. He got an immediate shot at a final eliminator against Jorge Sebastian Hyland, which I can understand. Some people had a little gripe about that. But the fact is that he actually fought in the title eliminator and he won. Plain and simple. And he put that mandatory status online against Hugo Centillo Jr., which was his recent fight, and knocked him out in 2 rounds. So I don't understand why people are running on this narrative that he don't deserve a shot, and yet these are the same people who went out and advocated for fucking Dominic Wade as the IBF mandatory. Oh yeah, he deserves a shot. Yeah, beating up not beating him up, but went to life or death over the hill Sam Solomon, a fight that most people believe that he lost. That Dominic Wade, okay, whatever. It is what it is. So yeah, that's the situation behind it. But the thing is that Golovkin is really, really backed into a corner. He's gonna have to figure out what he's gonna do here. For me personally, I'd rather him take on Derevchenko and Charlo and forget about Canelo, and then get on to Saunders after those 2 fights. And from the looks of it, Abel Sanchez and K2 or 360 Promotions have indicated that they have no intentions of fighting their mandatories. But hey, they could prove us wrong or prove me wrong. But and from what I've been hearing also is that they've been keen on trying to make the fight with Ryoto Moriata, which is a significant money fight in Japan, because Moriata is a celebrity there and he draws thousands and thousands of people there. I mean, not as big as Canelo Alvarez, but it's still a big money fight, and they have indicated that they're going to go for the big money fights going forward. They're not going to be taking on dangerous risks or mandatories that doesn't bring in the revenue that they're looking for their fighter. And the indications behind that is because they see that Golovkin has pretty much got, he's pretty much at the end of it if you think about it. But hey, he is 36 years old and he's taking a lot of damage in his career. Regardless of him having that iron chin or not, but you can't deny that he's taking a lot of damage in his career, because that brain of his, the skull of the brain is a very, very sensitive component to the human body, and the more it's got damaged, the more it's going to become abnormal. So what I mean by that, in the later years, and he could surprise me, in the later years, I expect that he's going to have some residual defects with his with his brain. I mean, that could happen. So he's also indicated that he wasn't going to fight much longer when he gave an interview a year ago. So but anyways, I think this is a kind of a screwed up situation for the WBC to pull this, but I mean, it is what it is. So let me know what your thoughts about this. I am out. Peace. Now, I'm not saying that Charlo doesn't deserve a shot. He definitely deserves a shot, but I'd rather have the WBC order the fight after Golovkin had defended his, if he was going to go through the fight against his IBF mandatory, Sergey Derevyanchenko. So for them to use this as leverage against him to get into that deal with Canelo, man, that leaves a bad taste in people's mouths, including mine, man. And yeah, the only thing we can do now is just hope and wait and see what his decision is going to be. But if you ask me personally, I have to repeat myself. He's not going to fight Derevyanchenko, or he's going to fight Charlo. I just don't see it. Those are two extremely dangerous fights right there for a very, very low reward. So let me know what your thoughts about this. I'm out.